The movie begins in a library, where we see two people named Daniel and his friend Mike. Daniel is a writer by profession and is very popular in the city. He has published more than 100 books on his own, but today his friend Mike is very sad. Unfortunately, he still had not found a book that suited his taste, so Daniel took out a very old book from a chest and told his friend to read this book once, saying that he hoped it would change his way of thinking. In fact, this book is the life story of Robinson Crusoe. Every page of it contains the tragic history of Robinson and his 8 years of suffering and sacrifice, which we will gradually learn about later. But for this, we have to go back about 150 years from today. The time was 1978. There was a popular city in England that was home to many famous people who, in short, had no shortage of money. However, at that time, a strange custom prevailed there. People who were black in color or belonged to a different religion or race were not respected. Everyone in the city looked at them with contempt, as if they had committed a great sin. Among them was Robinson Crusoe, who, although not black in appearance, belonged to a different race and followed a different religion from everyone else. So he was never respected by anyone. He was always neglected, but Robinson fell in love with a girl in this city whose name was Mary. They both loved each other very much, but Mary's family would not accept their love. It was understandable that Robinson belonged to another race, but the bigger problem was that he was poor. His financial condition was not equal to Mary's family, so no matter how many times Robinson tried to explain, Mary's family would never agree to their marriage. Meanwhile, Robinson's world collapsed when he found out that Mary's marriage had been fixed with his younger brother's friend, Patrick. Patrick did not tell Robinson much about this, so Robinson decided to talk to Patrick himself and asked him not to do this to Mary, because Patrick knew very well that Robinson and Mary loved each other deeply. However, when Robinson tried to convince Patrick, instead of listening to him, Patrick insulted Robinson as much as he could. He even said that he had never considered Robinson his friend and had only used him for his work. But that day, Patrick said he wanted to give Robinson a chance, and that chance was to put a sword between them. There would be a fight, and if Robinson won, Patrick would leave Mary's life forever and never come between the two of them again. Robinson agreed to his words. Then the fight between the two began, and after some time, we saw that Patrick was badly injured. He was lying on the ground. This meant that Robinson had won the fight, and now Patrick would have to leave Mary's life. But in the meantime, when Robinson was leaving, Patrick tried to attack him from behind. While Robinson was trying to protect himself, his sword accidentally pierced Patrick's stomach. It seemed that Patrick was no longer alive. Yes, Patrick was dead. In this situation, the people around surrounded Robinson from all sides. They even pointed guns at him. It seemed that this might be Robinson's last day. However, at that moment, a man helped him. He told Robinson that he should run away immediately, otherwise his fate would be very terrible. Following the man's advice, Robinson rode a horse and first reached Mary's house. Mary was there. She saw the bloodstains on Robinson's body, became very scared, and asked him how he ended up in such a condition. Robinson told Mary everything one by one, explaining how Patrick had been killed by mistake and how people were now searching for Robinson to kill him. Mary advised Robinson to leave the city as soon as possible, otherwise they would kill him. As Mary said, Robinson left for another city, but before leaving, he promised Mary that exactly 1 year later, he would return, and on that day, no one would be able to separate them. Then, Robinson came to the port of the city and boarded an unknown ship. He himself did not know where the ship was going. After some time, it was revealed that the ship was traveling from England to India. Yes, India, our neighboring country. The purpose of their journey to India was that they had received information about a secret search somewhere in India. There was said to be a special kind of treasure hidden there that could not be found anywhere else in the world. That was why they had set out to find that treasure. Robinson was also traveling with them on this journey. He wrote down every incident that happened to him in a diary. Robinson planned that after reaching India, he would stay there for a few months, then return to England on the same ship and marry Mary. But nothing like that was written in his destiny. He could never have imagined what awaited him ahead. A long and difficult 8-year life was waiting for him, one that could shatter all his hopes, dreams, and desire to return home into dust. But let us see what finally happens to him. As the day passed and night fell, a massive sea storm struck their ship. The storm became so violent that the ship began to break apart within moments. Water started entering the ship, and eventually, the entire ship, along with its passengers, sank into the sea, leaving Robinson and his companions helpless. The crew members were also sinking into the deep sea. Perhaps this was the last journey of Robinson's life, and he would never see this world again. Anyway, the night passed and the next morning arrived. On the shore of a small island in the middle of this vast sea, we saw a man lying unconscious. But when we came a little closer, we realized that it was none other than Robinson, the hero of our story. Last night, he had floated from the ship to the shore of this island. Maybe fate itself was helping him, which is why he survived. He was the only survivor among all those people, and at the same time, fate had brought him safely to the edge of this island. When Robinson regained consciousness on the shore, he first looked around carefully carefully and saw that the bodies of the other crew members were scattered in different parts of the sea, which deeply saddened him. However, he also noticed that their ship had washed up on the shore a little farther away. Although it was no longer in the same condition as before, it had been completely destroyed by the storm the previous night. Meanwhile, Robinson remained on the island and continued with his efforts to survive. That day, he buried his companions on the island and prayed to God for them. He asked God to forgive them and wished that their souls would be at peace. But Robinson's work was not over yet. After some time, he entered the remains of the broken ship. From there, he collected some necessary items for survival. Inside the ship, Robinson noticed a dog. This dog had belonged to the ship's captain. Perhaps it was lucky enough to survive, just like Robinson. Robinson took the dog with him and also gathered several barrels of gunpowder, some food supplies, and a gun for his protection. Since there could be many dangerous animals on the island that might attack him at any time, Robinson prepared himself in advance. After returning to the island, Robinson tried to arrange fruits, food, and drinking water. In this way, he spent the entire day. But the next morning, his luck suddenly seemed to change. He noticed a ship passing by in the sea. As soon as he saw the ship, Robinson quickly lit the torch he had made and tried to signal them. Unfortunately, the torch was too small to be seen from such a distance. He shouted loudly and repeatedly from the island, but despite all his efforts, nothing worked. Eventually, the ship sailed away, taking with it Robinson's great hope of returning home. This left him completely broken from the inside. He felt that this might have been the last chance of his life. He believed that he would never be able to return home from this place. He had never lived in such a lonely environment before. The next 8 years of his life on this island were going to be extremely difficult, something Robinson could never have imagined. But he was not entirely alone. We are with him. Let us see what Robinson is able to do in the end. As another day passed, the next morning marked the beginning of Robinson's serious efforts to survive. First of all, he began building a shelter to live in, because he had already assumed that no one would come to rescue him. He believed that he might have to spend the rest of his life on this island. He had to cross rivers and slowly adapt to the natural environment, as he had no other choice. That is why Robinson built a house on a tree, and inside it, he arranged all the belongings he had collected from the ship. The captain's dog was now his only companion. Robinson named the dog Jackson, a name somewhat similar to his own. The two of them lived together like shadows of each other, because Jackson was the only living being with whom Robinson could share his life. Robinson could talk to Jackson, but even then, he often felt very sad because he had not seen Mary for such a long time. He tried to imagine his beloved and wondered whether he would ever see her again. After that, a full year passed on the island, and we could see that Robinson was no longer the same person. He had adapted to the weather and the natural environment. The difficulties that once troubled him no longer affected him in the same way. He tried many times to escape from the island, but each time he had to accept defeat. Eventually, he lost the desire to return to the city. Perhaps Mary herself was still waiting for him, and Robinson understood this deep in his heart. Anyway, one morning, Robinson was walking along the shore of the island with Jackson when he suddenly noticed footprints in the sand. This made him realize that there was someone else on the island besides him, someone he had not seen yet. Because of this, Robinson followed the footprints into the jungle. As he moved deeper inside, he began to hear the sound of drums beating from somewhere nearby. Robinson went further and carefully looked ahead. He saw a group of indigenous people slaughtering one of their own kind. In fact, these indigenous people belonged to a tribe called the Elena, who captured humans and survived by eating human flesh. On that day, they had captured 3 people who did not belong to their tribe. They were from another island and tribe and were about to become food for the Elena people. Just as the indigenous people were about to kill them, Robinson arrived from that direction. He fired his gun at them. Hearing the gunshot, all of them panicked and quickly ran away from the area. However, Robinson killed one of them and freed the man who was tied to the tree, whom the natives were trying to kill. But the men still could not trust Robinson. He thought that Robinson might be a creature from another world because his skin color did not match his own. That is why the men suddenly attacked Robinson, grabbed the gun from his hand, and pointed it at him. He aimed the gun, but at that very moment, the Elena tribe attacked them again from behind. Robinson shot them one by one with his gun, just like before. This time, the men slowly began to realize that Robinson was not his enemy and that he was trying to save him. But even then, some doubt still remained in his mind. Meanwhile, seeing the man's strange behavior, Robinson became very angry. He cursed him several times in English and then returned to the edge of the island. A few days passed, and one day, when Robinson went into the jungle to hunt for food, he suddenly got trapped inside a snare. In fact, this trap had been set by the indigenous men whom Robinson had rescued earlier. But before the man could free Robinson, Robinson himself easily cut through the trap and escaped, which shocked the man once again. He thought that Robinson might be a magician, because otherwise, how could such a thing be possible? Because of this, the man began following Robinson and eventually reached his house at the edge of the island. After arriving there, the man finally understood that Robinson was actually an ordinary human being like him. The image people had formed about Robinson was completely wrong. Meanwhile, Robinson had already forgiven him and even gave him one of his own names, Friday. Robinson told him that from now on his name would be Friday, and that he would call him Friday. Gradually, the two of them started living together on the island, and they soon became good friends. Robinson could now understand Friday's language much better than before, and at the same time, Friday also began to understand Robinson's language. However, one night after finishing his meal, Friday told Robinson about his god. He even tried to explain it by drawing shapes on the ground. But Robinson started laughing at Friday's god and said to him that this looked like a picture of a crocodile. Robinson asked how a crocodile could ever be the god of humans. He told Friday that he should learn more about Robinson's religion and explained that they all believed in one god. Robinson said that maybe Friday had been wrong all this time. To convince Friday, Robinson gave him the Bible to read. But Friday did not know how to read properly. By mistake, he suddenly tore a page out of the Bible. Seeing this, Robinson became extremely angry and began abusing him with harsh words, scolding him repeatedly. Friday was deeply hurt by Robinson's behavior and became very disappointed. He wanted to leave the island and go somewhere else. Later, Robinson realized that he had been completely wrong with Friday, so he prayed to his God and asked for forgiveness. But the question remained whether Friday would forgive him or not. A few days passed, and Robinson searched for Friday in many places. After 10 days, he finally found him. As soon as Robinson saw Friday, he tried to apologize, but Friday did not want anything to do with him and refused to talk. However, when Robinson tried to explain a few words to Friday in his own language, Friday immediately became happy and their friendship was restored. After that, the two of them went fishing along the seashore and ate together. A few days later, Friday received information from a secret source that the Alaina tribe would return to the island again. Before the natives entered the cave, Robinson and Friday reached the area. Robinson spread the gunpowder he had brought from the ship all around the cave. Their plan was to set fire to the gunpowder and destroy the natives. After completing all the preparations, Robinson and Friday climbed behind a tree and hid. After some time, the natives entered the cave and began their ritual of killing people again. Meanwhile, Robinson did not waste any time. He took the opportunity to ignite the gunpowder from above, and the fire slowly began to spread. So far, everything was going according to their plan. But suddenly, the captain's dog, Jackson, saw the fire and started running toward it. Robinson tried to stop him, but it was already too late. The gunpowder ignited completely, causing a massive explosion inside the cave. He could not change his fate. Robinson buried Jackson with great respect in the middle of the island. Friday was there with him and tried to comfort Robinson. However, their danger was still not over. The Alaina tribe would surely return to take revenge, something Friday had already warned Robinson about. But after losing Jackson, Robinson lost interest in everything he used to do. His entire world seemed to have come to a sudden halt. Because of this, Robinson told Friday that he should go back to his own home and let Robinson stay there alone. He said that he did not want Friday's life to be in danger because of him. After hearing this, Friday asked Robinson where he came from. When Friday heard the name Britain, he said that he had heard this word many times before. He explained that his father used to talk about it. Friday said that sometimes the English came to their island from Britain, took their land, and claimed it as their own. They even took away their mothers and sisters. If anyone tried to stop them, they were shot and killed. Friday asked Robinson how he could live in such a cruel and terrible country, and said that people from such a place could only be enemies. Although Robinson did not fully understand the meaning behind Friday's words at first, he soon realized the truth. The English sometimes came to Friday's island, which meant that England was not very far from it. This gave Robinson hope that he could easily return to England if he wanted. Robinson also suggested that Friday go with him to England, but Friday refused outright. Instead, he said that he did not want to dirty his feet by stepping on the soil of such a disgusting country. He abused Friday harshly in his own language. But in the middle of this argument, Friday suddenly asked him what the word master meant. Robinson replied that master meant owner. He realized that Robinson had considered him nothing more than a slave for a long time and had never truly thought of him as a friend. Friday became so angry with Robinson that he even thought about killing him, but he was not like the English. Friday was much nobler at heart, so he spared Robinson and left the place again. He went somewhere else, and from that point onward, Robinson spent his days alone on the island. During those days, Robinson worked hard to build a boat using pieces of wood, hoping to reach another island with it. Meanwhile, seeing Robinson's suffering, Friday returned to him and said that he had never thought of Robinson as an outsider and had always considered him a good friend. Hearing this, Robinson apologized to Friday. He admitted that he had never known how much pain the people of his country had caused others. Robinson apologized once again, and Friday forgave him because of his kind and generous heart. After that, the two of them began working together again. However, that very night, a powerful storm struck the island. They quickly gathered their belongings and took shelter inside the house. Now they had very little time. However, they no longer had a boat, so they could not escape even if they wanted to. Because of this, Robinson decided that they would not leave the island. He said that they would let the tribesmen come and face them there, fight them, and then return home. He instructed Friday to do exactly as he said. Following Robinson's plan, they set up many traps and nets around the island. The natives attacked as soon as they arrived, and the very next morning, this is exactly what happened. Many natives reached the edge of the island, but as soon as they entered, they fell into the traps one by one, and many of them died instantly. Even then, Robinson and Friday fought together, and in the end, they managed to defeat all of them. However, during the fight, an arrow struck Robinson in the chest, leaving him badly injured. It seemed that if things continued this way for too long, saving Robinson might not be possible. Just then, Friday told his mother, "This is my friend Robinson. His condition is very bad right now. Hurry and get him some help." However, once Robinson recovered, the natives arranged a death match between him and Friday. The rules of the game were that the two of them would have to fight each other, and the winner would be allowed to stay on the island or go somewhere else if they wished. Robinson was very surprised to hear such strange words from them, so in the end, he would have to fight his own friend. Besides, they had no other choice. The two were placed on a wooden bridge, and the fight began. Friday tried to hit Robinson, but Robinson did not strike him in return because he could not bring himself to harm him. How could he hit Friday? Friday had saved his life, and Robinson could not kill him. That is why Robinson told Friday, "You hit me yourself. One of us has to die, and I am giving my life." Robinson continued saying that Friday would have to strike him under pressure. Just then, a gunshot came from afar and hit Friday in the chest. In fact, the British had arrived again. They began attacking the indigenous people from a distance and even burned their houses. The natives tried to flee wherever they could, but in the meantime, Friday died from a bullet in the chest. Robinson could see that his beloved friend was no longer alive. This pain and sorrow filled him completely. We could see in Robinson's eyes that he could not accept that his friend Friday was gone. His own people had killed him, but now there was nothing he could do. The English captured all the natives and set sail for England, taking Robinson with them. After almost 8 years, Robinson was finally returning to his own country, something he could never have imagined. Every day of his life on the island had taught him the true value of life. You may remember that she was the only person for whom Robinson had ventured so far from home. For the past 8 years, Mary had waited every day for Robinson. Surprisingly, even after all this time, she had not married. Just then, she heard a voice behind her. Looking back, she saw no one else but Robinson, the person she had been waiting for all these years. Finally, after 8 long years, the two of them embraced each other again. It was a moment of complete peace for her. Robinson realized that he had also waited for 8 long years. In the end, the two of them decided to marry, and this scene marked the final page of the book that Mike had been reading for so long. Inspired by this story, Mike decided to rewrite the book in a larger format so that everyone in the world could know about the extraordinary friendship between Robinson and Friday. At the very end of the story, we see Robinson giving Friday a necklace and telling her that it would be a symbol of their friendship for the rest of their lives. He said, "I will remember you for the rest of my life." In fact, this story teaches us that a true friend will never leave your side. They will always stand by you in times of trouble.